Now in the past, there was a crisis in a nation. Turn with me to the book of Esther, chapter 4. There was a crisis in the Persian kingdom. An evil prime minister wanted to destroy a racial group, the Jewish people. So he gave a wrong counsel to the king and tricked the king to sign a law whereby every Jew in the Persian Empire can be legally killed. So this was a crisis now. So Esther, a godly Jewish woman, whose original name is Hadassah. Hadassah is the Jewish name for Esther, and Esther is a Persian name. Now her uncle, Mordecai, heard this word of the danger that was going to come to the nation of the kingdom of Persia for the Jewish people. So, Mordecai, the uncle, now has a relative who is the queen. So he thought in his heart, since my niece is now the queen, perhaps I can talk to her to do something about speaking to the king, to change the heart of the king, so that the law can be revoked. So he went and told Esther, Esther, this is the danger. Please do something. So Esther told her uncle, Uncle, don't you know the protocol? What is the royal protocol? The protocol is you cannot come before the king unless you are invited. Or if you come before the king must lift up his scepter and stretch towards you, showing that you are pardoned and you can come before the king. So Esther told her uncle, I have never been before the king after our marriage. I've never been invited. He comes to me, he comes to see me, but I have never been invited on a very official manner to sit on the throne before him. So how can I go and talk to him? So this was Esther's dilemma. So in fact, Esther was saying, Uncle, I'm sorry, I can do nothing about the situation. This was what Esther was saying. So look at what Mordecai told Esther. Esther chapter 4 verse 14. He told his niece, for if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise for the Jews from another place, but you and your father's house will perish. Yet who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this. Now please observe two phrases in this scripture. The first phrase is, if you remain completely silent. That's phrase number 1. And phrase number 2 is, who knows if you became queen just for such a danger that was coming for the nation. Two important phrases. These two phrases I repeat to you now. If you, Kenyans, will remain completely silent at this time. Phrase number 1. Phrase number 2. Who knows whether you came to the conference to hear for such a time of decision for your nation. Who knows? Who knows? By our wonderful daughters who came from South Sudan, God brought them here as a sign of warning to you. If you don't do anything about your situation, this is what is going to happen to you. Who knows? Yesterday evening, while I was praying for you, I saw in a vision the map of Kenya. And I remember, I usually never remember the prophecies that I utter for a nation. Usually I write down all those prophecies, but I was looking for the prophecy about Kenya that I gave last year, but it was not in my notes. But when the Lord walked here as a Lion of Judah, I suddenly remembered the prophecy that I gave. And the prophecy, the Lord spoke that He has chosen Kenya as a lion nation. You remember, Reverend Phoebe? Oh, you all remember? He has chosen Kenya as a lion nation. And as a lion nation, this nation will be like a model nation for the rest of Africa. Am I right, everybody? You all remember? So that is the will of the Lord for this nation. But now you are tipped in a balance. When you're tipped in a balance, when we don't walk righteously, then the same God who said, I will lift you up, now lifted up His hand. A lion has 4 legs, right? So I saw the right front leg lifted up and tear the nation apart to 2 pieces. This is what will happen. This is very similar to what happened to the nation of Israel. God tore the nation of Israel into 2. Am I right, everybody? Yes. The northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. One nation of Israel now became northern kingdom Israel, southern kingdom Judah. 2. There you have a scriptural proof that God will do it. The devil did not do that, It was God who tore the kingdom away from Solomon. Am I right, everybody? It was God who did it, not the devil. So now this is a crisis. Who knows? All of you are gathered here. Now God speaks to you. You hear the word. Yesterday evening, we cried before God. Today, another prayer made by the ministers of God. This is not the end. This is just the beginning. Who knows? For such a time as this, you are gathered here. And this conference was supposed to be held in the month of May. It is held in the month of May. Everything was good and lovely in Kenya during that time. But now, at a strategic time, for such a time as this conference being held, for you to hear the mind of God, for you to hear a counsel from God, for you to hear a plan from God, so that you can do something. In the vision yesterday I saw hundreds of angels stand along the line of division of your nation. And each one of them had a sword in their hands. And the word of the Lord came unto me, the sword will be used for 2 purposes. 1, to stitch and heal the division, or cut in 2. That's what will happen. At a word from the Lord, all the hundreds of angels standing along the line will just cut down. Or there will be healing of divisions. When you go for a surgery, a surgeon uses a small little needle to stitch you. Am I right? So that's what the angels will do. They'll put their swords in between and heal the land, stitch the land, so that all the divisions of all the tribes in Kenya will become one nation under God. Is that your desire? Yes. If we can have a diversity of tribes, cultures, languages, but you will become one nation under God. That is the desire of God. Amen? That is the purpose of God. So Esther was warned to do something to avert the danger. Esther chapter 4, verses 7 to 8. So that the Jewish race can be protected and spared from destruction. So this was the assignment given to Esther. Esther, don't remain quiet. Don't remain quiet. From whom was danger coming? Esther chapter 3, verse 6 tells us that the danger was coming from one wicked man called Haman. Why? Because Esther chapter 3, verses 1 to 5 says that Mordecai refused to bow down and respect him. Now, who is Haman? The Bible tells us and history tells us Haman initially was the chief minister or like a governor of a state. He used to go and stand before the king. And because of his position, foreigners living in Persia and the Persian people, as soon as they see Haman, they will all bow down and they worship him. Now everybody did that except Mordecai. Mordecai will not bow down or even shake Haman's hand. He will not even bow his head nor kneel down. So when Haman saw this, he thought to himself, all the Persian people, they bow down, they worship me. Even the foreigners living in Persia, they bow down and worship me. Except this man, a Jewish man, who is no better than a slave. How is it that he does not bow down and worship me? So he desired to punish Mordecai, and then not only punish Mordecai, but to destroy his entire race. Why he wanted to do that? Okay, it was Mordecai who was an enemy to him. It was Mordecai who refused to bow down and worship him. But why then did Haman wanted to destroy the entire Jewish race? Why? Now there is a reason why. Haman, history tells us, is a descendant of the Amalekite people. He comes from the Amalekite. And who are the Amalekites? The Amalekites are an enemy of Israel. And not only that, during the time of King Saul and King David, they destroyed the Amalekites. The king of Amalekites, Agag, was killed by Samuel. So the Amalekites harbored an anger and a hatred towards the Jewish people. You know, anger can be passed down generations. You know that? Yes. Anger, hatred can be passed down generations. I understand that Kenyans love Israel very much. Am I right? Yes. And I notice in this church there's a flag for Israel. So even every year there's always a large delegation of Kenyans who visit Israel to pray for Israel. You know that the Palestinians always send suicide bombers to Israel. I'm sure you all know that, right? There was one time a 15-year-old Palestinian boy strapped bombs all around his waist. He went into a crowded area, of Jewish people and blew himself up. So he died and many Jewish people were killed. And after everything died down, news reporters from BBC in England visited this home of this suicide bomber boy wanting to do a documentary about suicide bombers. So this journalist, she went to the home of this 15-year-old boy to interview the mother. And she saw her mother seated in a corner and she was weeping and weeping and weeping and weeping. So the journalist thought, oh, this poor mother is weeping so terribly because she had lost her son. So when the woman calmed down, the journalist asked her, Mother, why are you crying? Are you crying because you lost your son? And the woman looked up at the journalist, wiped away her tears. She said, I'm not crying because I lost my son. I'm crying because I don't have more than one son. So that I can send all my sons to kill all the Jewish people. The journalist was shocked at what she heard. Then, controlling herself, she asked the mother a question. Isn't it very terrifying and fearful for someone to commit suicide? So the mother said, no, from the day my son was born. This is what many Palestinian mothers do. The day they come out of the mother's womb, the first word they say, speak to the ears of a Palestinian child is, you're born to kill the Jews. Every day the mother, when she's feeding the baby, when she's walking the baby, when she is putting the baby to sleep, she speaks in his ears, you're born to kill a Jew. That is the call Allah has given to you. This is your mission. This is your mission. This is your destiny. Every day the boy is hearing this in his ears. And then when they go to the mosque for prayers, there the imam is preaching the same thing. Your destiny is to kill the Jew. Allah has called you to do that. When whoever does that, you will be instantly in paradise. And you will get great rewards from Allah. So when day by day you hear this, what goes all into you? The zeal to kill someone, right? That emboldens them so much so they have no more fear to give their lives for a wrong cause. In the same manner, the Amalekite mothers, after their nation was wiped out, passed down the hatred to the children. The children's children, and the children's children. For generations, the hatred passed down until Haman came. Now Haman had the power, he had the authority to take vengeance on behalf of his great grandfather, King Agag, and to take vengeance on all the blood that was shed by his people. So he decided, why just punish one man when I can take vengeance on behalf of my entire race and wipe out the Jewish people? So this was the plan of the enemy. And Mordecai heard the plan. Now who does Mordecai represent? A prophet of God. A prophet of God who hears from God. And then he comes and warns the people. If you read 2 Kings chapter 5 and chapter 6, you will read that the Syrian king makes a secret plan to destroy Israel. And hundreds of miles away, a prophet in Israel called Elisha. And while he is praying, he supernaturally hears in his ear the secret plans that the Syrian king makes. And then he sends the word to the king of Israel. This is the plan of the Syrian king. They are coming in this direction. Prepare your army to meet them. So the Israel king, hearing the Syrian plan, they ambushed the Syrian army and they got victory. So many times it happened like that until one day the Syrian king became so mad, he called his cabinet of ministers for a meeting and he shouted at them saying, "Who is the spy among us?" And all the ministers started trembling, because when the king is angry, it means many heads will roll. Not roll does not mean dismissal. Roll means really your head being cut off and it will roll on the ground. So the king was so mad, he says, there must be someone who is a spy and leaking secrets to the king of Israel. Among the council of ministers, there was one wise man. So he told the king, "King, none of us are spies, but the real spy is in Israel." So the king was surprised. How can the spy in Israel know my plan? He is not ordinary spy, king. He is a prophet of God. Whatever you whisper in your bedchamber, his ears are so big and so long that they can hear what you are whispering to your wife. Every sweet words you speak to your wife, darling, honey, salt, pepper. I always wonder why they only use the word honey. Why not salt, pepper, Tabasco? Anyway, see, there's a prophet in Israel who hears, God opens the ears to hear what secrets the enemy makes. So Mordecai here is like Prophet Elisha. He heard the secret plans. So now he came and told someone who can do something. Now God revealed us yesterday the plan. I received the plan and I'm revealing it to you, the church in Kenya, because the church in Kenya can do something about it. Either you can do something about it or you should do something about it. Now you not only you have South Sudan as a warning, you also have Australia as a warning. Because the Australian church failed to care, failed to take up the burden to prayer. Now an evil has been released in the nation. You don't want that to happen in Kenya, do you? No. So being warned, what did Mordecai, the Jewish people, and Esther did? Three people group. Mordecai, representing the prophetic company in Kenya, and Jews representing all the Christians in Kenya, and Esther, all the intercessory prayer ministries in Kenya. Three groups. Now what did Mordecai, Jews and Esther did? Number one, look at Mordecai. Esther chapter 4 verses 1 and 2 says, Mordecai sat in sackcloth and ashes, fasting and praying. So Mordecai did that. What did the Jews do? Esther chapter 4 verse 3 says, all the Jews fasted and prayed. Number 3, what did Esther do? Esther chapter 4 verse 16 says, Esther and her maids fasted and prayed. So all these three groups, they did one thing common. They fasted and they prayed. 2 Chronicles chapter 7 verse 14 says, if my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves. Humble themselves means fasting. shall humble themselves and pray. First you humble, fasting, and you pray. If you do that, and you seek the face of God, Lord, what shall we do? Our Reverend Phoebe very humbly confessed in prayer that the Christians have been taking sides with the tribal party groups. Now we humble ourselves by seeking God's face. It's not this tribe or that tribe. It's not this party or that party. Seeking the face of God, who should be the next president? Everybody agrees? It's not this party or that party. You must be willing to die to your tribal rights. You must be willing to die. If you're not willing to die to your tribal rights, then God will give you a man according to your own heart, and this nation will go through tribulation. This is what happened to Israel. It was not the will of God for them to have a king. God was to be the king over Israel. But all the people went to Samuel and said, we want a king and we want to be like other nations. You know, that was contrary to what God told them. In Exodus chapter 19 verse 6, God told them, you must not be other nations. You must not be like other nations. You must be a peculiar treasure unto me. That's what God told them. But they did not want to be a peculiar treasure. They wanted to be like every other nation. So they asked for a king. That broke the heart of God. And Samuel the prophet cried the whole night unto God. Because, now listen carefully, because the nation made a referendum and their vote was, we want a king. That was what the national referendum said. We want a king. So Samuel cried unto God. And God told Samuel, stop crying. I will give them a man after their own heart, who will be a taskmaster to them. And you know, if you read the history of the kings of Israel, except for King David, or just of 2 or 3 kings, the rest of them were all wicked kings. Wicked kings who took Israel down the ditch away from God. Even King David, he did many sins, and the many sons that were born out of him all became wicked. Look at King Solomon. Solomon was not born in the right way. Am I right, everybody? As a result, what did Solomon do? He married 1,000 women. And all the 1,000 women were from 1,000 different tribal foreign nations. And they all brought their 1,000 gods into Israel. 1,000 idol altars were set up all over Israel. Now who did that? Because of a king. And because of what King Solomon did, God was so angry, he tore the nation into 2 halves. Now, if Israel had not asked for a king, do you think they would have all these troubles? No. They didn't want God to be their king. They wanted to be like every other nation. Right now, I feel strongly stirred in my spirit by the Holy Spirit with this word. Just like God wanted to be king over Israel, God wanted to be the king, the lion king over Kenya. He wanted to make you the crown nation. Now you have in your hands a choice now. You can, listen everybody, all Kenyans, listen. You can either wear the crown of glory on your head, or you can wear the crown of thorns on your head. You know, crowns of thorns are painful. They signify suffering. They signify bloodshed. They also signify death. God is offering you a crown of glory, where He becomes the king over your nation. Or if you choose the other way, then you will wear a crown of thorns on your head. And you'll go down the path of misery, suffering, and death. And your economy of your nation will go down the ditch. And you will become the poorest of the poor nation in the whole of Africa. When God turns His back on a nation, all the blessings will be withdrawn. You see this happening to the nation of Israel. In Deuteronomy chapter 28, God pronounces 14 kinds of blessings and 28 kinds of curses. You don't want that to happen in Kenya, do you? So Mordecai, representing the prophetic groups in Kenya, fasted and prayed. The Jews, representing all the Christians, they fasted and they prayed. And Esther, representing all the intercessory prayer ministries in Kenya, they fasted and they prayed. You are in a crisis now. Unless and until there is a national prayer, fasting and repentance, nothing can save your nation. For such a time as this. Now, please observe that phrase that Mordecai said. For such a time as this. What does that mean? God foresaw the danger that was going to come, and He strategically positioned Esther to be the queen in the palace. That's the first thing God did. He strategically positioned her. The second thing was, she was in a place of strategy, to be in a place of favor and power to bring deliverance. To do something that will bring deliverance. God foresaw all this. And He moved Esther and placed her in the position so that she can do something about it. And later on, when you read the whole book of Esther, you know that she did something. It was because of her fasting and prayer. Not only fasting and prayer, Esther chapter 5, verse 1 and 2 tells us that she even counted love not her life unto death. Revelation chapter 12, verse 11. The last days remnant people must have a heart of sacrifice, a heart of dedication, a heart of consecration, that you do not love your life even unto death. You don't love your lives. You are willing to lay it down. Esther did that because she dared to go and stand before the king uninvited. And she knew that could mean two things, Either the king will stretch out the scepter and forgive her, or he can call the gods to arrest her and behead her. One of two things can happen. So she fasted and prayed for 3 days and 3 nights. They did not eat any food. They did not drink any water. they fasted, they prayed, they cried out unto God. Then she came and stood before the king. Now what does that mean? Coming and standing before the king. The king represents people in authority. In this sense, it represents the political leaders. So the Esthers, the prayer intercessors, the leaders of this nation, the intercessory leaders should be bold enough to go and stand before your leaders and tell them what is right and what is wrong. Because you have the scepter of God in your hands. God has given you that scepter. The godly church leaders, the prophetic godly church leaders, the godly intercessory leaders should go and confront your national leaders and tell them the word of the Lord. So when Esther came and stood at the entrance to the palace, King Ahasuerus was busy reading a scroll. And then for some reason he lifted up his eyes and he saw someone standing at the gate. And he was very upset. Who dared to come uninvited? He was about to order the guards when he took a close look and he saw his beloved wife, Esther, standing there very calmly, very meekfully, very submissively. As soon as he saw her, he remembered the first day that he saw her when she came and stood before him among the many women. Immediately, at that moment, the hand of the Lord touched the king and stirred his heart to make him lift up his scepter and stretch towards Esther and said, Esther, come. So by this sign, she knew she had found favor. Amen. So she came up before the king. She bowed down to worship the king, to pay respect to the king. And then the king said, Esther, my darling, what do you want? Whatever you want, I'll give you to the half of my kingdom. See, when you find favor with God, this is what God will do for you. Half of the kingdom. So now you must ask God, we want the other half of Kenya that's trying to separate. You ask for the other half. Lord, no separation should come. Kenya should be one nation under God. So God is saying to you, like Ahasuerus said to Esther, what do you want? I'll give you to the half of my kingdom. So this message is very appropriate for you. So now you ask, we want the other half. We want that half and this half together as one. That was the attitude of Esther. Now you read Esther chapter 5, verse 1 and 2, chapter 7, verse 3 and 4, chapter 8, verses 1 to 6. Let me give you another example. God foresaw a great worldwide famine that was going to come all over the world. So how to save the world? A great famine was going to come. So he sent Joseph. Joseph was strategically positioned in Egypt. And God gave him a plan what to do to save the whole world. It was God's hand that moved Joseph, took him out of his father's house and placed him in Egypt. In those days, Egypt was like the only richest nation in the world. The only kingdom in the world. All the rest are very small tribal nations or tribal groups. And they all look up to Egypt for supplies, for help, for economic benefits. So God moved Joseph and placed him in Egypt. And in Egypt, he should not be an ordinary citizen if he was to be in a position of power. So the Lord lifted him right high up to be the prime minister of Egypt. so that he now has power in his hands to save the whole world. So God placed you strategically for such a time as this. You are gathered here. MIDEAN Women's Conference. Esther was a woman. All of you are women. And I told you yesterday, among the many gifts that a woman has, one great gift that she has is tears. Tears. It is very easy for your heart to be broken. It is very easy for you to travail in prayer. You know that meaning because as a woman, you travail in childbirth. You know the meaning of the word, how to travail in prayer. Very few men know that unless they are supernaturally endowed with the gift from God. But you, it comes to you naturally. You have the gift of tears and you have the gift of travailing. And you have another gift. I hope you will not be offended by this. Every woman have the gift of nagging. Amen? Yes, amen. Now listen, my dearly beloved daughters. However, you are using that gift for wrong purposes. Today I tell you, use it for right purpose. Nag at God. Nag at God. I give you a scriptural proof for nagging at God. It's all scriptural, you know. Luke chapter 18. The Lord Jesus Christ tells a parable about a poor widow who goes to the judge and nags him, keep on nagging him, so much so. The judge was so tired of this woman's nagging, he came out of a bedroom and he gave her more than what she asked for. See the power of nagging? Next time I'm going to preach on that. The power of nagging. See, you have that gift now. So you need to nag at God. Lord, we will not let you go until the whole of Kenya is united as one nation under God. Amen. Amen. How many of you agree with what I said? Okay. If you all agree with what I said, now we need to practice what I said. We are going to go into a time of prayer now. Who's next? You or she? Okay, come Stella. So Reverend Phoebe said yesterday we are continuing from session 1 to session 2, right? So now session 2 begins. And Pastor Stella is a wonderful woman of God whom I know her and her husband for the last 20 years. And she is one great hell of an intercessor. A great intercessor who groans and travails and weeps and cries before God. So it is a great blessing for the people of Kenya that God has sent Stella for such a time as this. Amen.